Good morning, everybody. There's still a few more people joining in, but I think we can make a start now with the meeting. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Richard Ostler. I head up the Research Data Management team at Rothamsted Research, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the RDM Club, and I will be chairing today's session. I'm delighted to say we've got Richard Brown from BBSRC with us today, who's going to be presenting an update on the new UKRI Data Sharing Policy and how this is going to affect those of us working in the life sciences and biosciences through BBSRC.
Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Richard Brown. I am Interim Head of Transformative Technologies at BBSRC, and as part of that I also look after our data intensive bioscience portfolio, which includes working with the UKRI team and colleagues across UKRI on the UKRI Research Data Policy. So why are we updating our policy? So, I mean, at UKRI, we champion research data and research data sharing as part of our broader mission to enhance the UK's research and innovation landscape. It's about maximising the value from the research that we fund. It's about supporting an open research culture and aligning with advances in technology and practice. And for BBSRC, in addition to this, the BBSRC review of data-intensive bioscience explored the transformative impact of data-intensive bioscience and also identified key barriers and opportunities through a series of recommendations that would strengthen the UK's leadership in data-intensive bioscience. And one of those recommendations, recommendation 5, was that BBSRC should update its data sharing policy to broaden its coverage and improve its implementation. And we are doing that through working with colleagues across UKRI on the UKRI Research Data Policy. So this policy builds on a strong foundation of the current Council's policies, investments in data, and wider national and international activities. And for BBSRC, this also included we built up a vision for what our policy post the data intensive bioscience review should look like, and that is feeding in to the UKRI Research Data Policy. So we're looking at a joined up approach here. So this is an integrated policy collectively developed and implemented by all of UKRI's constituent councils. So this will make a policy that is easier to navigate, that it's consistent across our funding, but grounded in good practice for the specific research being undertaken and types of data it involves. And it also joins up with other UKRI policies, such as digital research and other investments, such as digital research infrastructure, talent, skills, research culture, trusted research and innovation, sustainability, and AI. And in particular, we have many funding opportunities across UKRI that don't necessarily sit within one council. So the current patchwork of policies that we have across the research councils doesn't work with them very well anymore. So most councils currently do have the policies, and these are what are being brought together. But we have other examples like as the interdisciplinary responsive mode and other cross-council awards that we make that just don't, the applicants need to sort of work backwards as to which policy that their work fits in, but this mechanism will, greatly simplify that for all applicants, and especially for us at BBSRC, we work closely with MRC, so having a single policy as well across the life sciences will be a great advantage. But just as a quick note, the policy is published, the draft, on our website, but at this moment in time, we must continue following our current policies while we continue the development. So this is the integrated policy. So it will have common guidance when applying for UKRI funding for data management plans, support for research data sharing and curation costs. The data policy itself will have a single set of expectations across all in-scope UKRI research, but we'll also provide data and domain-specific guided modules across arts and humanities, environmental data, biomedical and health data, research data about people, the UK research facilities and centres, algorithms, software code, and workflows. So this is kind of recognizing the policy itself will have to sit at a slightly higher level than the individual council policies, but by having the extra guidance modules, it will really help you as applicants when you apply and explain our expectations. So we have the policy. I mean, if you look through it, I'm sure many of you have. It is much clearer on what our expectations are, and much more straightforward to follow. So there are common requirements for all UKRI funded research within there, and a lot more clearly explains our expectations about good practice for the different types of research being undertaken, and what musts are and what shoulds are in there, as well as what coulds are about those expectations. And those are all parts that we've received lots of feedback from about where, for example, the shoulds are and the musts are regarding our policy, which we are all integrated into what the final policy will look like. So the scope of the policy. The scope applies to most UKRI funded research. So there's some exceptions or variations around specific Research England Innovate UK funding. So it covers all data arising from and underpinning published research findings from in-scope UKRI funded research. So the final policy will include something around expectations and guidance for algorithms, software code, and workflows, although not every module will likely be published when the data policy does, because we also recognize, for example, around software, such as the OECD work currently going on as well. So there will be some scope details and guidance, I say, to be developed further once the policy itself is published. So when working on the policy, looking across our existing policy and what good practice is, there are some key principles right at the start of the policy. This is aimed at making it, making the expectations again much clearer. So these are making data as open as possible, responsibly sharing and managing data, making data fair, appropriately preserving and retaining data, acknowledging and recognizing contributions, planning for data sharing and management, and resource data management and sharing. And I think for our applicants, this provides familiarity for applicants to drive better data planning for projects. So implementing a single policy across UKRI and life sciences is, a bit as I mentioned, ensures consistency and familiarity, aiding researchers in effective data management. So the recognition of the importance of good research data management. So this is a modern policy aligned with best practices that emphasizes the importance of proper data handling, storage, and sharing to enhance research quality and impact. For the data and data focus roles, these are enablers of greater funding impact, and the policy recognizes and supports data focus roles, which really can significantly enhance, sort of, as mentioned, the impact of research funding. And also, these are the principles that make it easier to understand the policy. Clearer expectations across the policy in UKRI, clearer guidelines to help researchers easily comprehend and meet data management requirements. So in developing supporting guidance, we're currently over 2025, which scarily is almost finished, and into 2026. We are further developing areas of guidance of the policy, so data management plans, costs, and monitoring and evaluation. And I'd probably highlight monitoring and evaluation as one of the parts of feedback that has been really emphasized to us, that we really need to sort of double down on how we're going to do that and make the expectations around that really clear. a few highlights from BBSRC is in our bioinformatics and biological resources opportunity. We've been trialing a data management plan template, which is quite closely aligned with the MRC template. All the feedback we have had from panel members and applicants to using that template has been really good, and that was developed as part of the data intensive bioscience review. And also this year in BBR, we're trialing actually, rather than having the satisfactory or unsatisfactory score for the data management plan in BBR, we're actually trialing integrating that into the assessment of the proposal. So it can take a more direct role in the project's assessments. So as noted a bit before, we've got the supplementary guidance, which will also be helpful for the biosciences. So the biosciences, we typically said to follow best practice, but using the expertise that we have from across UKRI, biosciences does involve, for example, environmental data. It can involve social science data, can involve health data and research data about people. So having this, alongside algorithm software code and workflows. So this will significantly enhance the guidance available for bioscientists, and by being consistent across UKRI, just be super helpful. So where are we now? We're currently in sort of the August 25 to spring 26 period. So the Pan UKRI working group was established, which is one that I'm on. We published the draft policy in the sort of late spring for consultation and feedback. We've held a series of roundtables and workshops, which I know some of you have been to, along with the survey that a lot of you in the community have fed back to us. So we're currently analysing that feedback to finalise the core policy, develop the guidance modules. And we're looking forward to spring 2026 for publishing that policy, guidance, and an implementation plan. So publication of the policy won't be the point that we implement it. There'll be an implementation period, because it will need to sort of fit in across the funding opportunities across UKRI. And I suspect we'll probably have some opportunities where we trial it first. And then at some point later in 2026, the policy will start for all new funding opportunities, and it will replace the Council's existing policies.